I put a barbarian giant death robot on every tile with a twist. To avoid Child Protective Services and misdirect Baka, who has a weird case, I gave the mentally disabled children their own island. And due to my many supposed war crimes and human rights violations, I have this unique opportunity to go one-on-one against the Federal Bureau of Investigation's finest. But how strong is a giant death robot? Well, they literally one-tap everything up to the modern era, but through this one simple trick we'll explain shortly, there actually is a way we can avoid getting curb stomped on turn 1. Too badly. And true to TheCivlifeR style, it will require every ounce of hemorrhoid cream in a 10-mile radius. The rules are simple. I have to win the game, and due to the spiffing Brit making my life difficult, the diplomatic victory is exempt from the game, as here on the TheCivlifeR channel it runs counter to our aims of getting abused like a 1950s housewife, whose salad would catch an earful from Gordon Ramsay.
Where's the sauce?
How will I beat an island full of robots? Will I be able to catch up to the deity AI? And what will I do when everything inevitably goes to shit? Well, smash that like button like you were the common flu and it was an African child's immune system, and sit back as you watch me get physically violated for your entertainment. But first, who is the Civ I have chosen for such a challenge? Well, the answer is Chin Chief Badass, this LARPer who could recreate the Warring States period in record time after everyone hears he's taken up command, is the only leader equipped to deal with this unique predicament. With the difference in combat strength, we'd have better odds of surviving an anime convention with no gas mask than best even one GDR in combat. And there's not just one, as nothing short of changing my ethnicity could turn this life sentence to a probation charge. But by using his unique ability, we can convert every barb unit within a 1-tile radius by sacrificing a melee unit to the gods. But isn't this too easy? Does this not violate Section 3 of the PAB behavior laws? Well, no. Despite this lifeline, we are still more outmatched than the 2008 NBA Finals, where LeBron carried a bunch of Make-A-Wish kids against the Monstars. Any area outside our city borders is 101 meters outside of a school zone, and my warriors are prepubescent children. Even if I manage to convert GDRs, only a Chinese honey trap could drain my savings faster, and that isn't even considering the most important factor, uranium. It is generally agreed upon by historians that ancient civilizations did not have access to nuclear reactors, and we are no exception. And that's an issue because giant death robots suffer a massive -20 combat penalty without it, a penalty not shared amongst our foes. And so even with this lifeline, the game will be far from easy. And so I settle my capital, convert the local power armor, and how do the GDRs respond? By stating the TheCivlifeR is not going to rape himself. We need to overcome this strength deficit, which doesn't seem too difficult as I plug in the discipline policy card, which will help tremendously.
Exodia! Obliterate!
To stop the GDRs from making my troops get down on their knees and start gulping gravy, I first take a trip to my local castle and make a blood oath with the vampire's secret cult. But that would soon prove to be a mistake, as when you convert units, you don't get the vampire back. Wasted secret society, you'll love to see it, but despite our difficulties, there is one unit that is both melee and low cost enough to be built in numbers throughout the entire game: the warrior. By spam building warriors, we can convert more units per production than any other type of unit, but don't they become obsolete? Well, as long as I don't obtain a source of iron, niter, or oil, I can build these brutish thugs for the entire game. Coming right at ya. Good luck, team.
I'm fighting for my life!
But even with the relatively cheap cost, it still takes too long to build to make a difference, and I can't increase the city's production for obvious reasons. So how do I reduce the production cost? Well, there are two key methods. Firstly, you may have noticed the regular barbarian encampments in the game, each of which give 30 gold upon clearing, or what the UN Human Rights Watch would call ethnic cleansing. And by clearing 6, we'll be able to afford the 160 gold needed to purchase a warrior, and with about 5,000 camps on this island, well, money isn't exactly going to be an issue. But there is a flaw in this strategy, as the GDRs I convert tank my economy, leaving me unable to buy nearly that many. For some reason, I actually have to pay them. Yeah, I should have committed genocide or engaged in slavery. Fraud is apparently where Firaxis draws the line. And this is where the most important policy comes into play. I go gay. The 50% boost in melee unit production aids us greatly as it pushes my production into overdrive, giving me a new warrior every 1 to 2 turns. And while we will have no shortage of warriors to convert, this strategy still has a crippling problem. And what better way to explain why than after getting that 5 barb convert nut factor and sending their warrior to spin on the GDR. Not to worry, thousands of years of evolution has rendered him perfectly optimized for combat in this environment. Right before the GDR made the warrior use its cock as a musical instrument. North Sentinel Island would have better odds at halting a US invasion than us at this point. With the next DLC of the Epstein list seemingly having it out for the southern city-states and my warrior chained to the city, I have to remedy the situation. And to do that, I am going to masturbate. By sending in my low-health vampire or GDR, the futuristic Ford F-150 see a toddler crossing the street and close in at Mach 10, allowing us to convert them to outstanding citizens the turn after their infanticide. And with that, we have a viable strategy to convert GDRs without leaving our cities, at least until we clear out the immediate area, allowing us to survive the early game, but surviving is not the name of this challenge. And my abuse is far from over, and as I witness Chin sacrificing more of his units to the gods, convincing the nearby barbs to convert, I may just have an idea. But first, I need a larger empire to enact my plans. Why are you not expanding? I mean, he's right, but this has to be a joke, right? With how far we are going to be behind and how last game's almost L in an easier situation was nominally due to our absolute failure in producing enough cities in time, we're going to need to focus more on manifesting our destiny in this game. And there's no room for natives in our soon-to-be ethno-continent. The strategy is simple. After obtaining enough faith, we secure religious settlements. This free settler is an extra city early game which can theoretically double our yields and warrior production for easier conversions. But just one other city is going to be nowhere near enough, and so we need to find a way to sustainably obtain as many as 20 if we are to stand a chance. Thankfully, we have a few more tricks up our sleeve. But before we can do that, I realized something rather important. How are we going to settle these cities? And at that moment of consternated despair, I smelled an opportunity. So how do we clear these camps? Well, even a GDR without enough uranium to power it can, ironically enough, move at full speed. And warriors and horsemen are not commonly known to have historically been capable of penetrating aluminum alloy, allowing us to clear upwards of 2 to 3 camps in a single turn. And through this stealing of GDRs and blitzing their camps, not only was space created, but we could safely activate the other Barb GDRs as sleeper agents who would come to my city with a list of demands. Before Chin's sacrifice convinces them to switch allegiance, and with this reliable strategy to create space, we would soon be able to send in our settlers. There's a problem. Even settlers might not be enough to win a science victory, and culture's out of the question, so as I scramble to think up a plan to win, I find myself on the Great People screen and realize no one's making any great profit points. I think I might have a plan. But even with a plan, yields still need to be made either way to advance society, and one way to do that is through alliances. By becoming friends with Germany and Greece, we can later on found alliances for every single yield, and through a massive trading fleet can sustain our economy on trade route espionage alone. As long as we're able to make at least 4 friends for 4 yielded alliances, so how do I plan on getting 2 more? Well, for now, the others are lukewarm, but Pakacutie will come around soon enough. He's from South America. He'd have positive things to say about Iraq if he went there, so I'm sure our Chinaware will be able to convince him soon enough. Unlike one problem, Civ, I will tell the world who you truly are. A victim? Man, I sure wish I had control of multiple vehicles in the most comprehensive vehicle combat game ever made. With the area now clear, we have to claim it for civilized tribes, and faster than late game, as that was our Achilles heel. And the way we do that is the same method as last game, ironically enough, a classical era golden age, but this time, I'm not going monumentality for easy settlers. Why? Well, there is one not often picked dedication that due to today's circumstances is much better long term. Exodus of the Evangelists. Due to every other civ spending their time on r/atheist before gooning to underage cartoons, we guarantee ourselves a religion. But how does that help us? Well, by selecting 2 key religious beliefs, we can send our faith into overdrive, allowing us to settle more cities quicker in the ensuing medieval era golden age. But that does beg the question, doesn't it? With a golden age now, the next one we need is significantly harder to obtain. This simple fact is what brought my downfall with Tamar last game, whose ability specializes in chaining golden ages. So if I couldn't do it with her, Well, what's the plan now? Well, first tell me, what do you notice about this game that is different from this one, aside from the robots of mass destruction? That's right, Barbarian camps. These camps not only give my economy a boost with 30 gold, but clearing camps within a certain distance of your cities gives you 3 era score, which means I will never not be in a golden age as long as I keep clearing barb camps. But as I scanned the map for camps to destroy, the worst thing imaginable happened. No! The city-state died? Losing cities to giant death robots is how an ancient religion would Hey, wait a minute. That's right, unless you bow down to my religious beliefs, these robots will come after your family and way of life. Tell them, Lao Tzu. But we have a problem. In order to place our great prophet and obtain our 2 necessary beliefs for this game, we have to clear out an area for a holy site. But the problem is, if it gets pillaged or occupied during construction, we won't be able to build or found a religion. And with holy sites taking longer to build than a wait at your local DMV before the employee tells you that you forgot to bring a copy of the Declaration of Independence, we have to clear the area. And so at the cost of thousands of lives, we clear out and place down the safest holy site we can. It will take time to build, so can we defend it in the meantime? And with our religion set up, the barb GDRs dealt with as best as can be reasonably requested, it is now time to enter phase 2 of our plan. It's turned 70, and looking at the map, there are a lot less GDRs than at the start. The barbs went from Super Saiyan 3 to Stormtrooper in less than 50 turns, and now it's finally time to exploit that. We will use our GDRs against the primitive barbs who lost access to their robotech and turned their insides into outsides. And with all these camps cleared, we not only secure more gold, but also the second golden age, and with all this it looks like we need a little more faith. And right on time, we finally complete the holy site and found our religion using our people's fears against them. But what are these 2 key beliefs I alluded to earlier? Well, the first is the warrior monk. This is another melee unit specialized in advanced fisting techniques we can purchase with the one resource we haven't made use of yet. Faith. And while you wouldn't be blamed for thinking effective fisting technique is enough to convert any GDR, I didn't build one. And that is all due to circumstances we'll get into later, but unlike the warrior monk, the second belief was imperative to our game. The religious building that gives the most faith in the game, the mosque. With this religion founded, we begin generating all the faith we need as long as we secure a 3rd golden age in the Renaissance, which is all but guaranteed. But before you plan out that massive empire, we first need a test run. Sending in our settler in what is the most critical part of this game. Unlike our capital, we can lose this city through a barb GDR who sees the word no as a green light. So we have to ensure it's in a safe position and also doesn't get captured on the way. Thankfully, the World Congress gives us a hand. The 50% production boost to units allows us to always build warriors in one turn. And with that, we settle our second city of Chengdu, showing that even on this map, we still have a shot. And during that time of high-tension city settling, our GDR was going apeshit on the barb camps. And while we could take out their boats, they're too far away to hurt us, as we leave them for more pressing land units, because surely they can't ruin our game later. Right? But the problem with our GDR rampage is what happens when we activate the others and they come in, shut us down, and advance on our now vulnerable cities? Well, the answer is simple. We use the yo-yo tactic. By converting GDRs and using them to our benefit, we clear out the weaker units spawned from the barb camps with absentee fathers, obtaining golden era score in the process, which eventually, once the enemy GDRs activate, about 2 or 3 at a time, they advance on our vulnerable frontier cities, which during this time will have either purchased using barb camp gold or produced another warrior that is used to convert those GDRs before yo-yoing right back. This strategy essentially eliminates the barbs as a main threat, but there is still a major problem with this strategy. The yo-yo strat is an extremely slow clear, and due to our need for speed, how exactly are we going to settle all the cities we need on time? But let's not get too ahead of ourselves. We already have plenty of space to make use of to need to focus on preparing for the all-out settler spam. With the cities no longer on the front lines of an active war zone, we can finally build something resembling an economy, improving resources to trade for gold to build more units or more buildings. But the best way to get new cities up and running is the government plaza, and not for what you're thinking. While the 50% boost to constructing settlers is nice, the free builder is 1,000 times more important. Why? Well, to get the city up and running as quickly as possible, but are 3 charges really going to be good enough to improve a city? No, but 5 is, and with the feudalism, civic, and serfdom, we can get that number for each new builder. And while I did say the 50% boost to settlers in the city isn't that important, when you couple it with colonization and its 50% boost, settlers are dirt cheap in the capital where John E. Rockefeller and his special eugenics program resides. And with this spam, we engage in a massive developmental scheme across our nation, starting with the 2 new cities almost immediately. And with the Renaissance Golden Age, we can continue this rapid pace of development for the foreseeable future. But the best thing about this game is yet to come, continuing our settling spree by settling the most important city of our game, Taiwan, a part of mainland China in this universe. Yeah, we're good to release for the Chinese market, right? Hopefully, as we are going to need their investment because giant nuclear-powered laser-launching robots are expensive for a pre-industrialized society to upkeep. And so I have to sell everything, luxuries, great works, just to ensure we can make the cutoff time to have sex with robots. And by selling our nation's national resources, we're able to stay afloat long enough to avoid bankruptcy for a few more turns. Hey, you know, it's like China invested into our economy after...
假设还有中国，现在我有冰淇淋，我很喜欢冰淇淋，但是速度与激情就比冰淇淋。
But an even worse situation than being sent to a Chinese re-education camp has revealed itself. The fact that Taiwan is about to declare independence. I'm about to lose my Chinese investors! Move, move, move! The boats may be a problem after all, but the issue is I can't afford to upkeep anything out west due to my limited funds, as the money I do have is needed to stem the tide in the east. Thankfully, we can use our 5-move speed GDRs to save the city, a part of our criminally underfunded empire, before moving back east to stop the Mongols post-haste. But this begs the question, with our slow pace of advance, what exactly is our win condition? I mean, science doesn't seem likely as the barbs are still a problem, culture's out of the question, and I'd rather lose than go Diplo. Leaving domination and religious victories is our only option, but there are issues with both. For domination, not gonna happen. And religious, well, the AI has massive buffs and Dido's already spreading her faith far and wide, entrenching herself hard. But unfortunately, that's the only likely option right now, so despite our lack of religious strength and distance from the other continent, we decide to set out to convert the world to our giant death robot religion. But then everything changed when the Sea People attacked. And unlike the last time, my yo hasn't yo'd yet, and without any defenses, there was nobody to stop their advance. No! Anything but Taiwan! How am I supposed to get my Bing Jinning commercial now? Losing half my empire is embarrassing, that's true, but losing it to barbarian boats... Yeah, I'll see you guys in the next life. But, is there still a chance for victory? Despite our weakened state, there just might be. The biggest problem is still the religious girth Dido possesses. But nobody else has really focused in on religion. And in order for me to counter Dido, there is one thing I need to do. Reduce the distance to her empire. And thus, through religious pressure and some key apostles, I can convert her, leaving the other civs as child's play to clean up. And while this might not be the greatest plan ever, I got to enacting it by waking up Nazcan's citizens to the worst day of their lives. Religious figures knocking on their door asking if they have heard of their Lord and Savior. But while the Nazcan citizens dropped dead due to my proselytizing, I realized something. I eviscerated them. They have 80 combat strength, which is much stronger than the other civs at this point. And like Chris Brown in 09, it hit me. Yup, we're back to this. Now, while it might seem like a few giant death robots could easily storm the AI, there are 3 key problems that will make even a giant death robot attack extremely difficult. The first is the fact there's no uranium, meaning no healing, and thus my GDRs need to find a way to heal themselves or risk breaking down outside Rome. The second is that it might be easy to take some cities early on, but keeping them is an entirely different story thanks to the loyalty mechanic, especially as all my golden ages catch up to me, and I no longer gain the loyalty bonus from having a golden age. And finally, this conquest will take about 100 turns, and at that point, the AI will be closing in on the information era and can have modern armor, planes, and GDRs of their own. We are on a timer, and have to spend the next however many turns preparing to near perfection while we wait for shipbuilding to cross the ocean. But what about the cost, you might be asking? I cheated. First things first, speed is the name of the game, and thus I have to boost shipbuilding. But where will I find a few boats that I can convert with nothing more than, say, the production of a warrior? That was easy. It's now time to plan our Operation Sunset Invasion. I will use 2 GDRs to defend my homeland and give me an opportunity to pivot to a religious victory if I get stalled halfway through. This will make things more difficult as 4 GDRs are left for offensive operations. The AI won't won't stay weak forever, so we have to take the minimum amount of cities, 5 capitals for the win, and enough cities to keep those capital cities loyal. And we have to avoid getting bogged down in any way, as if we do, then the final boss of this run, a Minotaur, yes I know, don't let her photo that could be used to torture terrorists fool you. She will be able to catch up technologically and crush us with her superior cities if we aren't fast enough. And with our plans finalized, we set out to conquer the second continent, which is more bountiful for obvious reasons. You might be thinking with their fraction of combat strength compared to my GDRs, we would be able to resize the rectum soon enough, right? You're wrong. As you, simple viewer, have forgotten the bane of missile-capable, giant military-grade robots everywhere. Medieval walls. But after more hits than what would classify as domestic abuse, we establish our first base. But this won't do much for us, as the GDRs cannot heal at all, so onwards we continue. But as I declare war on Dido, how will I deal with this crippling Achilles heel? Well, it is common knowledge that medieval subsistence farmers kept a storage of highly enriched uranium for personal use, and by raiding their stores, we can fuel our giant death robots. And to make me feel bad if I lose a single one, I decide to name them based on previous comments from TCLR subscribers such as yourselves. The Nibblers, the Turtle Jerkers, the Accursed Navajo No-Fappers, and the Orphaners. Now for the first main challenge, and as much as I want to build up tension for how difficult the fight with Dido was, what am I supposed to say? I really needed to one-shot the city, but I can only two-shot it, leaving me vulnerable for a single turn to the potential reality of crossbow bolts penetrating my nuclear-powered armor core, before finally establishing a Syrian biome in her capital. In fact, I sent most of my army out west, as using 100% of your effort to conquer Dido is civilizational malpractice in most cases, and in this case it would just be considered a capital crime. As the first actual challenge is coming up soon, and after succeeding in obtaining my first of 5 capital cities, I'm feeling pretty confident, as now it's time for the first real challenge. Back at Cutie. While he did send his forces after me, that wasn't the issue, as when you are a walking tank of napalm, every other unit around you looks like a Vietnamese rice farmer. No, the problem is the Incas are right across the desert, as we will struggle with loyalty, forcing me to raise and liberate their first cities. But to keep the capital Cusco, I need to find a way around that loyalty debuff. And I think I did. With both loyalty policy cards and sending in governors to make use of these policies, we will have enough time to take the second city in a quick enough fashion without having a single rebellion. If it wasn't a tougher nut to crack than my flattened testicles. With their massive defenses, we spent turn after turn just trying to take it down. Much too long for even our bonuses to keep the occupied city at bay. I'll be spending the rest of this game playing whack-a-mole if I don't pivot immediately, as time is wasting and Nubia is only getting stronger. And then, I found my plan B. If we hit them with the metaphorical late-stage Plan B, I'm sure the resistance movement will die down. And after that tough front line, the soft underbelly was exposed, and soon after, it was over. Completely eliminating the Incas and surrounding the second of 5 capitals, I need to win this game. But as I set my sights on Germany, something awful happened that could ruin this game. A dark age. And guess who got a heroic age? But what makes this particularly challenging is the fact that we will be slowed down tremendously, as whichever civ we go after, the other will mop up its low loyalty cities, getting both stronger in science and military production. And with more cities means more loyalty, causing a cascade of rebellions that can undermine all my conquests. And with Nubia taking off, time is running out, especially since there are no reinforcements coming in. I send in units to convert, and I'll awaken a long-forgotten evil that will go apeshit on mine and our Eta Psi. So yeah, about that lack of uranium, my people discovered it before the steam engine. And now with slightly stronger units, it's time to go after Germany. Magdeburg was easy, but Hamburg was not only a different story, it was a fortress. Even after taking Hamburg, the other cities were just too strong, as my cities kept rebelling. And soon after, I couldn't resist the urge of the ghost of warlords past taking over my body like the symbiote. If there are no people left, then there is no one left to rebel. As you can imagine, that didn't go over too well with the international community.
You are Adolf Hitler. You are Adolf Hitler. You are Adolf Hitler.
And now for the war with Trajan, our most difficult opponent yet, as with his new heroic age in my dark, I need to blitz all his cities. But you see, that will be impossible, as his cities are at 94 combat strength and with urban defenses. If medieval walls stopped my GDRs earlier, my robots to urban defenses are like a deer standing on business in the middle of a highway. And while that city fell and Rome was closing in on capture, we were met with rebels, mainly due to my previous ethnic cleansing, not exactly endearing me to the world's population, it seems. I decide I only have one hope to rectify this mistake, by splitting my army into 3 and taking all 3 cities at the same time to improve loyalty all around the empire. And all was going well, until my mouse slipped. Uh-oh. I need to stabilize the situation fast, and while Lugdunum was fairly straightforward, Mediolanum is a fortress with mountains, hills, and 104 combat strength. On a side note, why do all these Roman city names sound like a villain in a Sherlock Holmes story? But all I have to do to beat him is to hold on. And as my own heroic age came in, I finally caught a break. With loyalty no longer an issue, we are able to take the rest of Trajan's still mighty cities, and in our peace agreement, we settled for nothing less than the clothes off his back. But as I look around trying to determine my next target, I see that Nubia's looking monstrous. Will I be able to get to her before she becomes impossible to beat? But let's not get too far ahead of ourselves, as we have to still take Aachen from Pericles. And as an emergency coalition was sent out, I smelled opportunity. After joining the coalition and putting our beef with Frederick aside, we liberate Aachen. Well, more like new management, as we gain the 3rd out of our 5 needed capitals. But Pericles' core empire, unlike Aachen, is going to be much harder to take. And none was harder than Sparta. But why not go for Nubia first, you might be asking? Isn't she gonna get stronger? Well, without access to an elephant rifle, the only way I could take down a Minotaur is by sniping her capital. And by going for Pericles first, I can do just that. But for now, let's take a look at their capital, Athens, and separating it from Rhodes is a massive unsettled desert. If we can take Sparta and Athens, especially in a heroic age, holding on to this capital will be much easier. And with 4 giant death robots breathing down their industrial era army, the 2 cities were made quick work of as we establish a peace deal with Pericles. And before a wrench was about to be thrown into my plans, we have to move fast. If the next era comes and we're in a dark age, we lose Athens, and the chain of loyalty will eventually lead us to losing all our hard-acquired gains. And with just 1 capital left to go, we can't go through the normal route to eliminate Nubia. We have to get creative, deciding it's high time to send in the Navy SEALs, and so the Nibblers, the Turtle Jerkers, the Navajo No-Fappers, and the Orphaners are all sent across the ocean in a special military operation where we will snipe the last capital we need. Arriving outside our sea borders as we are almost ready to launch the operation, we just need one more minor bonus. I'm wearing this outfit because I really don't want to test YouTube on the issue. And with Registeel finally being sworn in as Führer, it's finally time for the climax of this video. Will I fail, or will I come out victorious? As our Axis Goon Squad storms the beaches of Nubia with the Dark Age closing in 10 turns from now, we have about 10 turns to take her capital. She, in the meantime, is closing in technologically, achieving flight, which increases her city's strength and ranged attack to well over 120. This challenge will be our toughest this game as we move through her empire, taking concentrated fire from modern units on all sides. By pillaging the local farmers' uranium supplies, we are able to hold strong, but the supplies are not infinite. Eventually, however, we make it, shelling the outskirts of Miro where a Minotaur's court was located, but it is taking almost no damage even with our cheap buffed GDRs. To counteract this, we surround the city so it can't heal and dig in for a battle of attrition, but as we chip away against it, so do they against our GDRs. And finally, as we're both a fraction of a percentage of health away from breaking on both sides, the Dark Age dawns upon us. We need to end this now, no excuses. But with our units near 0, this might not be enough. A stalemate means there is a 50-50 chance we take this city and a ranged attack does little to damage city health. And so, is this over? No, but the only way out is to make a sacrifice play. This noble sacrifice did not go in vain, as we finally take the 5th capital out of 5 and win a domination victory. And so, despite our early game handicap, the deity AI stood no chance against our genius and against Turtle Jerker's sacrifice, and also the cheats. And as for our next challenge, will I be able to beat every Civ 6 victory type in less than 5 hours?